Well, this is Larry Ukali Johnson Red coming on with the new podcast, Podcast 7. And this video is a poem I gave at Underground Books about 2003. And so listen to this first, and here I come.
And so we want to flip that tonight and just express love and express the kind of love that ties people together, because that's very positive. And so in this piece you will know, it's called Black Woman Dear. And it's the last poem in the book, Loving Black Women. Black woman dear, please have no fear. Through good and bad, I'll always be near. Sister, get this clear. I'll always be near. I'll always be near. Black woman dear, you are my mother. I am your brother. My sister, friend, or cousin. My love is overflowing. In the inner city, where we need more love. Even in the suburbs, let peace and love shine down. Look and feel me in your front, but I got your back, black woman, like that. Please, my sister, you have nothing to fear. Smart and beautiful, black woman dear. You are my love, you are my queen. Love you more than beer, black woman dear. Us together, let that vision be clear. You are my priority, black woman dear. I love it best when you are near. I give you my heart, black woman dear. Keep me close, keep me near. I love you, black woman dear. Thank you. Just want to urge you to go to YouTube and look for Loving Black Women Part 1 and see the beautiful introduction that Sister Rose gave me and see a little bit of my flow. But you know, in relation...
Okay, so hello, this is Larry Ukali Johnson Red, host of the Larry Ukali Johnson Red Show, sponsored by Speak Freely Publishing. I am on Facebook and Twitter under my username Ukali the African, one word. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn using my four names, Larry Ukali Johnson Red, and I have 50 video and audio clips on YouTube, as well as on my website, www.lovingblackwomen.com. Who am I? My name is Larry Ukali Johnson Red, a native of San Francisco, California. I spent the majority of my life advocating for and participating in educational initiatives for me and for my people. As the author of 8 books, I feature commentaries on cultural, political, local, national, and international issues. A prolific writer, powerful communicator, sought after speaker. I am available for lectures, interviews, speaking, and media engagements. Books. My first book was called The Black Expatriate in Africa, based on my 4 years of living in Nigeria. I later changed it to Journey to the Motherland in 2002 from San Francisco to Benin City. And it's an autobiographical novel. I also have a book called History to Destiny through Afrocentric Poetry. Loving Black Women, essays and spoken word, where that poem I read about Black Woman Dear is the last page in that book. Recently I spoke to one of my friends in Sacramento, and I was asked to provide 20 more copies of that book. All right. Shout out to Sacramento. Then I have a book called Long Distance Love, and I do not suggest any of it to you because my first chance at Long Distance Love ended in fiasco, and I wrote a book about it. All my books are on Amazon.com, Kindle. My next two books are called American Challenges in the Obama Era, Parts 1 and 2. Again, that's 220 pages each, approximately, and about the Obama administration and the powerlessness of African Americans and how to solve that powerlessness among African Americans and how to make it better. And my last book I'm working on now, just about finished, is called Letters to My Brothers. And that's going to be an upcoming release. I have 2 master's degrees, one from Golden Gate University and the later one from San Francisco State University. I got my BA from USF. I grew up in Lakeview in San Francisco, Hunters Point, and Fillmore at different times. So I claim all of the city. And again, I have my website at www.lovingblackwoman.com, one word. And to buy my books, go to Amazon.com, Kindle, and then put in Larry Ukali Johnson Red, and you'll be brought to my authors page, where you have a chance to look at my books for free, download them for $2, $3, $4, and enjoy. And also, you'll be able to give back to me because I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. So you can write back and let me know what you think. Okay, we got that said finally, and now we are ready to get into some of the issues of the day here in the USA, particularly the latest bit of rubbish from the Trump administration to jump on 4 ladies that are black and brown and to abuse them as though he has abused the other women in his life. Because, Trump is a billionaire, and a lot of billionaires, they think they can walk on women. Well, that is definitely what Donald Trump has decided to do in his vain attempt to focus the attention of more people on these 4 new, progressive, smart, intelligent, and beautiful lady members of the House of Representatives because they come from other countries. But see, Trump, when he's running his mouth, he doesn't realize how many hundreds and thousands of white people live all over West Africa. They live all over, South Africa, all over East Africa. And so he abuses Africa and calls Africa a shithole country, which is very, very bad, especially when I know how hard Nigerians go to please anybody who comes into their land. Anybody. And with that thought, let me just say, a few minutes ago, I talked with my good friend, Akari Ugbesia in Nigeria. I talked with my friend in Nigeria just a few minutes ago. And he told me that he also has a television program. So that's going on weekly. Well, I got my start with television appearances in Nigeria. I actually appeared on the national program African Independent Television, and you can see it at YouTube. However, since I've been in the U.S. and my second trip back from Nigeria, where I did appear on international TV and national TV in Lagos, it's been kind of quiet for me in terms of America because my image and my narrative is being discriminated against. Of course, I'm a black man talking positive about my positive experience in Africa. Well, a lot of people don't want to hear that. They just want to hear negative things about Africa, and all of that's just not true. So, anyway, it's good to be back on the air. We try to keep our head up as a people, even though when Trump criticized the four ladies, one of them was born overseas in Somalia, but she's now in Minnesota and a progressive. I'm a progressive. You don't call me a Democrat or a Republican. Call me somebody who wants progressive things like Medicare for all free, like the country to adopt a goal of full employment, I'm for the ending of mass incarceration and employment in the community or in the neighborhood or in an adjacent area for all those prisoners. We can't continue to make money, have people make money, billionaires make money on the mass incarceration, mainly of black people from Africa, America, and also the Caribbean, as well as some people from down there in the Pacific Islands. We can have that as opposed to having the country adopt a goal of full employment. That's what I'm talking about, and that's what these progressive ladies who are being spotlighted by Donald Trump, for the most part, agree to. Also, we need a national law on the prevention of police brutality. Recently, as we talk about Somalia, because they have a lot of Somalians in Minnesota, and so one guy was a brother, he was a police, and he shot a woman coming up to him. I don't know how he got scared, because in this country, black men can't get scared. But anyway, he received 12 years in jail. And so that's the gold standard. If a brother shoots a white woman and gets 12 years in jail, then a white police that shoots a black or brown person should also get 12 years in jail. This is the kind of progressive movement that these ladies and the gang and other people like me believe, because we have seen hundreds and hundreds of black men getting shot by the police out of the policeman's fear. But the black men were unarmed. Many of them had their hands up, or they were running. And at that time, they were shot in the back. So instead of Trump attacking these four progressive House of Representatives members, he should attack the police for killing blacks all over the country, all over the U.S. in the year 2019, when everyone should have human rights. And so, just for a moment, I'm going to read this piece I got called Human Rights. But the other thing I did mention, and these are the things that black men and women want to see before they get interested in the Democratic Party. How are you going to be interested in the Democratic Party, a party full of millionaires, when they don't even mention your main issues? Mass incarceration. More than 1 million black men are under cuffs or in the jail. Many of them getting killed in prison, being set up by the guards. So, and then other brothers are getting shot on the street. I even remember a policeman coming up to me with his gun drawn on a traffic stop. So African American men got to wonder if they're going to survive a traffic stop. Whereas when a white man kills 9 blacks in a church down south, they are walked into the prison, probably given a McDonald's dinner or something like that. So those are some of the things that divide progressives from the Republican white racists that rule America. And America remains under Trump as racist as it can be, and it continues the savagery of slavery from the 1600s, bringing slave ships from Africa to America, North, South, Central America, as well as the Caribbean. There are more than 150 million blacks in South Central America, as well South and Central America, like Brazil, even Chile, far down south is Chile, then all the way up to Guyana, Venezuela. Then the blacks will go all the way out because all of these areas were used for slavery. So the slave ships might stop in Washington or Virginia first, and then they go all the way down. So we have almost 200 million Africans in the West now, and we're all up against the wall, most of them. Most Africans in the West are not being treated fairly. Look at Brazil, almost 100 million blacks in Brazil. Yet, there is not one black Brazilian cabinet member. So you see, this is the kind of nonsense that Trump continues to protect. Meanwhile, a 14-year-old Jason Smith, the late Jason Smith, was found in the bottom of a lake in Louisiana with all of his organs missing, as well as raped and beaten in his face and eyes. So the thing that happened before with Emmett Till still continues to happen even up here with Jason Smith up until the year 2011. And if you listen to the news, you still will find blacks being hung in Mississippi and all those other southern places in isolated incidents. So these are the human rights and civil rights violations of the African Americans' way to life, the Afro-Brazilian, the Afro-Venezuelan. Well, not there because they had a revolution with a very progressive leader. But you come on up through Honduras. The United States intervened in Honduras in 2009 because they got a good president who was going to be fair to everybody. And the U.S. didn't like that. They want the profits from exploitation to continue to enrich them. And so they went down and committed a coup. That was when Obama first got in office. But I figured the planning had already been done by the military before he got there. And he probably didn't have the power to stop it. So Donald Trump, he doesn't remember. He doesn't know or doesn't acknowledge how many happy but nervous white people live all over Africa and even all over the world, especially when he included Africa in his shithole definition. Because my motherland is not a shithole. It's a very beautiful place with very beautiful people who go all out of their way to make everybody who comes near their land welcome. Okay? And so please, if you ever want to go to Africa and verify what I say, do so. You could even read my book, Journey to the Motherland, and you'll see how well I was treated. Okay? All right. So anyway, I have a response to Donald Trump and all of these human rights violations of my people and also the black and brown people of South America who are at the border trying to get in here because they have governments full of corruption, U.S. finance corruption, and all of their profits are made to come to the U.S., leaving very little for their country and their people. And so that's here's my response. I don't like my people being shot down in the street, making the police judge, jury, and prosecutor, and executor, killer at the same time across this country in this bloody, deadly August. Well, that was of 2014, but I continue to see it from coast to coast. For the African-American family and people, this police killing should shock all peace and justice-loving people all over the world, all over the black world, and all over the entire world. We can barely hear their voices. And look at the tanks crushing our people's humanity and the right to rebel against the official murder and police brutality and murder and stifling and crushing public dissent with tanks and military units in Ferguson. That's Ferguson, Missouri. That's what happened when Mike was killed while his hands was up in Ferguson, Missouri. But it's continued unabated. And you can see it on YouTube as well as on many American TV stations. So what about the right to assemble? Our most precious human right. The right to live. What about the right to assemble? What about the right to live and not be summarily killed by state and its stop and frisk policies? What about the status of human rights, like the right to demand a cold-blooded murder in the street be tried? What about the right to demand justice in the face of injustice? To my people in Ferguson, no justice, no peace. This alone is a good reason to launch a strategic national black consensus, to reorient ourselves and make our future better as a people, as well as end deadly police brutality. But we must come together, African Americans. We must continue to stand up for our right to live and for all of our human rights. We have always been outgunned but never subdued. No justice, no peace. In Ferguson, there must be an indictment and conviction soon to restore African American human rights. And you know, there was no conviction in Ferguson. So these are the things that we're up against, you know. And so we still have a situation where Trump gets on the TV and says, oh, I help African Americans have the lowest unemployment rate ever. That's a lie, a bold-faced Trumpian lie. And the reason is I'm looking right here now how at this YouTube spot that says black home ownership drops to all-time low. So we couldn't be at an all-time high with great jobs if the black home ownership drops to an all-time low. Okay? And this is from Black World News. So instead of ABC and CBS, you might want to consider Black World News on YouTube to get your news if you're in Africa or Asia or Latin America, to get a better understanding of what is going on in America with and among African Americans. Okay, so now we spoke a little bit about the young man that was killed at 14 and his organs missing, right? Then we have Trump telling people, if you don't like America, leave. No, just correct it. Why should America be violating human rights of black and brown and red and yellow people and not violating the rights of white people? White people don't have any problem here, but African Americans do. Quite opposite to the way I saw Nigerians being so hospitable and treating white people so good when they come to their country. They don't call America a shithole country over there, although you never know what's going to happen if Trump keeps on going. So again, are Trump's policies helping African Americans? Not so when you have the worst, and I mean worst, home ownership. So, and then you also have human rights missing. Again, body of, Omar responds to some of that. So these ladies are responding to the harsh rhetoric of Donald Trump, and this harsh and this racist rhetoric, because again, Trump has to try and manipulate things so people will not know his record, and then he could sneak back into office. But Trump is a demagogue. He loves authoritarians like the president of the Philippines. He loves their power. He wishes he could get their power. I even saw Trump with his picture on, papers saying 26 and 28. 2026, he would still be president, probably in his mind, in his dreams, but not in the reality, because Trump doesn't have a legal way to get a majority now. In fact, he didn't get a majority of votes, and that's another hypocrisy of America. But the hypocrisy is that you have the Electoral College doing the actual vote and the popular vote not counting as much as the Electoral College vote. And that should require a constitutional change to outlaw that old, what you call, that very old Electoral College that is so undemocratic that when Hillary got more votes than Donald, the Electoral College voted for Trump. Okay. So, the corporations in America who are backing Trump, they got a decision to make. They got to decide whether they want to be good global citizens or ugly Americans. As I said, I'm going to also do human rights for all in a few minutes. Okay. There's a challenge for us all. Before an American fall, hear the call. Gaza and the West Bank, the Palestinian state, needs it all. Good global citizen or really ugly Americans must finally free African Americans. No more Mike Brown. Hear what I said? Killed on the street, hands up and dead. While tanks and armored vehicles are rolling all over African American human and economic as well as political rights, with military units armed with big military guns, tear gas, intimidation, flash bombs, and night vision lights. Wow. Every Palestinian goes back to Palestine, to a free, independent Palestine, and America's ending poverty in our lifetime. Indigenous education of every mind, and poverty becomes hard to find. With the death of imperialism dead, feed all those underfed. Full employment throughout the world. Dog economies dead. Fair world trade widespread. This is a challenge for every good world citizen. End racial discrimination throughout the world for liberation. No more racist, ugly Americans. No more Western world intervention. Ending Western world colonization. Respect for every indigenous, independent nation. The end of white supremacy. Ending poverty in every nation. Human rights respected for the world. Then we'll see world liberation. America, set all the prisoners free and build a new liberation. Replace incarceration with free education. Let your passion for liberation take an action for your satisfaction. Let your passion be for liberation, taking action for your satisfaction. Popo shot Mike Brown down on his street in his town. In Ferguson, Missouri, our human rights passion was found. And our people stood up, and Ferguson passion is still standing. Until justice comes, Ferguson are the passionate ones. They are trying to stop our right to vote. This is the GOP brand. A plan to further oppress the color, woman, and man. 600 bases around the world, 600 military bases around the world. Good world citizen or world policeman. Gangster corporations, thieves on Wall Street, and clowns in Washington, D.C., fighting universal health care. Value black life and everyone else. Freedom for us all. You can't keep it only for yourself. The challenge of America and for the world within world domination and the world policeman. The challenge for America and for the world within the world, will it be world domination or a world policeman? Or human rights, loving, not oppressing, pro-liberation, good global citizen. Well, that's a long piece. It's in my book called American Challenges in the Obama Era. But as you can see, it recognizes, like when I was in Nigeria, after talking to my bro today, my buddy, I remembered how me and my late wife, we were driving from Benin City up to Kaduna. Oh, about maybe 500, 600, 700 miles. And as we were driving in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of all these states like Kaduna State and Kwara State and Niger State, we found Mike's mine and Bob's mine and John's mines, big old signs. And what it let us know was out in the middle of nowhere in Nigeria, you have white folks out there robbing and stealing the land of all of its valuable vitamins and minerals and all kinds of things. Like in the Congo, I'm talking on the cell phone, all the cell phones are made from materials from the Congo. So America didn't get rich overnight. It got rich because of slavery. It gave us a boost enough to now be able to have the whole world under its feet for exploitation. And so to the United States government and people of the United States and the people of the world, I'm giving you this next piece called Human Rights for All. To the whole world, my call, Human Rights for All, by Larry Ukali Johnson Red. The whole world, hear my call, oppression must fall, human rights for all. To Americans and Russians, to Putin and Trump, to the rich people live in a palace, the poor live in a dump. To all communities, to the old and new, majorities and minorities and new majorities. Human rights for American citizens, human rights for immigrants. Can a new president in 2020 grant all immigrants a new amnesty? Let all people live free. End of facial police murder. End racial discrimination in every community and nation. Human rights in southern Russia.